Last night when we were doing a celebration of the ministries of the United Methodist Church, they went on for 4 hours. I teasingly said the Oscars don't last as long as that service lasted last night, and I kept looking for the credits to start rolling at any point in time, but never did come to a conclusion, but we're here today anyway. Our day-to-day schedule has really looked like this, usually getting up at about 6 o'clock in the morning to try to be out for breakfast by about 7:30 because most of our legislative work had started at about 8 o'clock in the morning, and we would go from 8 o'clock in the morning normally until about 9:30 at night. So it's been 12-hour days in legislative work with a break for lunch and for dinner, but it has been good to be in fellowship with people from South Carolina. We did have a chance to get together as a delegation on Saturday to share a meal together and to be sitting around the tables thinking about our future life together. So that's been great. And it's really been wonderful to be in an environment where we get to see the global nature of the Methodist Church and to be with delegates from around the world. There are times when perhaps we don't agree about matters, but we do believe that God is in the midst helping us to ask what's the next step forward. There's been a lot of conversation in the first week around major issues related to the United Methodist Church. Significantly, the structure of the United Methodist Church and whether or not we realign our boards and agencies, whether or not we move for a non-residential set-aside bishop, whether or not we shorten the length on our ordination process, or whether or not we move away from the security of appointments, or what was formerly known to most people as guaranteed appointments. The delegates have been working really diligently all week, looking through thousands of pieces of legislation to try to reconcile them, to make sense of them, so that we can think about how does the United Methodist Church find a way to make disciples for Jesus Christ and to continue to be relevant in a world that's continuing to change around us. I think a lot of the things that are coming up will impact South Carolina. The question about security of appointments, about whether or not we continue to have a system of guaranteed appointments where we deal with issues of clergy effectiveness or ineffectiveness is a significant issue, and so we began to find ways to be able to ask, how do we faithfully help clergy who are less than effective find a way to faithfully exit the system so that we're not doing harm to local congregations. I think when we look at the structure of the church and find ways to streamline the structure of the church and ask ourselves whether or not we're using our resources, our financial resources, to the best of our capabilities so that local churches don't feel the burden of trying to take care of the ministries that are local and trying to figure out how we're going to take care of our connection so that it's a both and, that we really are capable of sharing in a greater ministry together, but also taking care of the ministry in our local context. I think it's important for us to be asking real questions about what does the future of the United Methodist Church look like? Will it be a church that is filled with young adults, youth? Is there going to be ministry and space for our older adults and for everyone who seeks to live in a relationship with Jesus Christ? So how do we be both a global church and continue to do ministry in the context in which we find ourselves? I think what's most at stake is both the unity of the United Methodist Church, but also, what does the future look like for the church? Will this be a time when we stand together and to say that we're committed to being a stronger church now than we've ever been before? Or will we continue to maybe keep doing what we've done in the hopes of finding a way to survive rather than a way to thrive? The things that I think that I'm looking forward to is going back to see where do we go from here? What does this mean for our annual conference in terms of how does this impact local congregations? I've been thrilled. Probably the most sacred moment for me was probably last night when we were talking about the impact of the No More Malaria campaign, and to recognize that when we are committed to something that we really can change the world. The numbers are dropping in tremendous ways on malaria, but there's a lot of work still left to be done. But it was exciting to see the difference that we've made as a global church in trying to respond to that concern, that initiative. I think after the first week, the delegates have had a good week. We're a little bit weary from reading through all of the legislation, but I think the real action now comes to play on the floor this week when we consider everything that's come out of the legislative committees.